Vítame samozrejme nie stále vás, ktorí tu sedíte, ale vás, ktorí prichádzate, pretože toto podujatie je otvorené od 9. hodiny ráno. Bude až do 2. hodiny do noci, respektíve do polnoci, do 1. Ako vydržíte, ako budete chcieť, pretože Noc výskumníkov vám ponúkne nie len vedu, výskum. Noc výskumníkov vám ponúkne aj uvoľnenie, radosť a zábavu. Toto všetko jednoducho patrí k tomuto podujatiu. A toto podujatie sa koná vždy. Naozaj je to s pravidelnosťou už 11 rokov v celej Európe. Vždy posledný septembrový piatok. A keďže máme september, je piatok a ten ďalší už bude patriť októbru, tak je úplne jasné, že aj teraz sa koná Európska noc výskumníkov. Prečo Európska? Je to veľmi jednoduché, pretože toto podujatie už aj podľa názvu má celoeurópsky rámec, pretože práve dnes sa koná vo všetkých európskych štátoch, ktoré sú členskými štátmi Európskej únie. No a teraz budem na chvíľočku, aby som teda uviedol nášho ďalšieho hostia, hovoriť možno ako zlý motivátor. Kedy si pamätáte, keď sme súťažili zhruba pred hodinou, pred 2 s malými deckami, kedy som ich nabádal k tomu, aby si vyberali skôr ťažšie otázky ako jednoduchšie, pretože ja viem, jednoduchá cesta, pohodička, žiadny problém, zvládame, ale tá ťažšia cesta, to je tá, ktorá vás posúva dopredu. Ťažšia cesta je tá, ktorá vám obyčajne dokáže splniť sny, ktoré máte vysnívané, napriek tomu, že sú ťažké, napriek tomu, že sú trošku komplikované. Ale keď snívate svoj sen a idete potom, tak to dosiahnete. A my tu máme dámu, ktorá takýto sen snívala, ktorá ho dosiahla, ktorá vám o tom príde porozprávať. Je to bývalá astronautka NASA. V roku 2010 bola vo vesmíre a v roku 2010 tam strávila 15 dní. Aké to bolo, čo tomu predchádzalo, čo nasleduje potom, prečo to všetko robila, tak o tom vám porozpráva. Dámy a páni, privítajme spoločne. Medzi nás prichádza pani Dorothy Metcalf-Lindenburger.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here and see all these kids and parents and everyone in the hall. And I'm really glad because hopefully, as you young people are listening and all you big kids out there, you will understand that we all have big dreams within us, and it is important to follow your big dreams. So mine started back in when I was a little child, and in 1983, Sally Ride flew in space as the first American woman. And that same year, a movie came out called The Right Stuff. And my parents took me to see this movie. And shortly thereafter, Catherine Sullivan did the first spacewalk as an American woman. So when my teacher asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I wanted to be an astronaut. But you can't just dream about being an astronaut. You actually have to do work and study and go on a path. And so my path started when my teacher, Mr. Jordan in the bottom, Mr. Jordan believed in my ability to do science. And he had this project where we took our food waste and we put it into a big pot and we cooked it up and we added yeast eventually. And over 3 months, we essentially made ethanol, and ethanol ran his lawnmower. And Mr. Jordan asked if I wanted to go from my state of Colorado to California to present this big project in front of other students and teachers. And I said, yes, I think that would be wonderful. And I realized scientists solve problems and scientists work together, and scientists also have to present to each other. So it was my first chance to do science. The next year, my parents sent me to space camp. Space camp is in Huntsville, Alabama. And for a week, I lived in a dorm it looked like a spaceship. And we did simulations on a space shuttle. And I got to pretend like I was doing a spacewalk. And I also got to be a ground controller and launch the astronauts into space. More importantly, after this week, I realized that there were certain steps that you had to take to become an astronaut, and it didn't just seem like impossible, it finally felt possible. That same month, in April of 1990, the Hubble Space Telescope was going on board the Discovery vehicle. And we know how important Hubble is, but that week is when I first learned about this telescope, and it was launching to space on the vehicle Discovery. I continued to participate in science, and I went home from space camp and I built Discovery and hung it in my bedroom as a reminder, this is my big dream. I want to be an astronaut. So I participated in science clubs in high school, and then I went off to college and I studied geology. Some of our early astronauts that had been a part of Apollo had also been geologists, and I loved the topic of geology. I loved being outdoors and understanding rocks and what it told us about the past and how it told us about the future as well. Additionally, as a geologist, I was able to work with other young people across the United States to do research and then go and present that research just like scientists do and to put it into papers. So I left my college with a plan, and my plan was that I was going to take 2 years off and teach English as a second language in Kazakhstan. But at that time, Kazakhstan pulled away from Russia, and the Peace Corps wouldn't send me there to teach English. So I was very concerned because now I had not had a graduate school lined up to do geology, and my job in the Peace Corps had fallen through, so I wasn't sure what I was going to do. But rather than be disappointed, my parents said, why don't you try teaching in the United States? We need good science teachers in the United States. So I went back to school, and I became a high school science teacher. And I taught for 5 years. I first started out teaching about the Earth, and then I added astronomy because everyone loves to learn about the stars and about planets and how we understand our solar system and our universe. And it was in one of my science classes that a young student asked, how do you go to the bathroom in space? Now, this is an important question if you are going to go to space, and it's an important engineering concept. I didn't know exactly what the toilet looked like for the astronauts, so I went and looked it up, and NASA had a very good description of how the toilet worked, but also NASA had an answer to my big dream, and that was that they were hiring teachers to be a part of the class of 2004. Oh my gosh, I could become an astronaut, but only if I applied. And my husband pointed out there were going to be a lot of smart people applying for this. But like I told him, how can I be a teacher and tell young people you should go after your big dreams if I myself do not go after my big dream? So I applied. It was a long process, but eventually I came down to Houston, and I actually got to see how the space toilet works. And more importantly, of course, I did a lot of medical tests, I did aptitude tests and psychological tests, and I had the interview with the astronauts and the Human Resources Committee. So even if I didn't become an astronaut, I was really satisfied with this week, because this week I met all these talented people from the military and from academia, from engineering and research and doctors, and I felt like I'd really gone for my big dream. And that's really what's important, is that you try for your big dreams. And then, if they work out, that's even better, but it's the risk that you take that's important. Well, I did eventually get the phone call in my third period science class that I had been selected to be a part of the class of 2004. And I'm really proud that 2 of my classmates in this picture are on orbit right now. One, in fact, is another teacher, Joe Akaba, and Randy Bresnik is the commander of the space station. All of us got to fly in space at least once. Most of us on the space shuttle, and a few have flown multiple times, so they've also flown on the Soyuz. Well, first, when you are in training, you have to learn how to survive in the wilderness because airplanes could possibly crash, and you would want to know how to take care of yourself to get out of this situation. So we have to learn how to turn our parachutes into tents and how to run scenarios where we work together as a team and get out of trouble. Then we also have to do water survival training in Pensacola. So this is some of the training that was not my very favorite because, as you can see, they strapped us into a helicopter body and they dunked us into the pool. Then you had to wait for it to roll over, and then you could escape. And we didn't just do this one time. No, we had to do it 3 times. So this was not one of my favorite days of training, but it was an important day of training because it showed that you could do challenging things and not feel comfortable, but still work safely. Then we were eventually able to practice flying. First, we start out in simulators and then in prop planes. The prop plane works a little bit more slowly than a jet, so it's an important step, especially for people like me who had not been a pilot. And eventually we work in the T-38 jet. This jet is used as a trainer for our military pilots, and it's a great way to train our astronauts because every time you take off, you are fuel critical. Also, you only have 2 engines, and you can lose an engine at any time. Maybe a bird causes FOD or some mechanical failure happens. So you need to know what to do in case of an emergency. So we know how to work through checklists, and we fly in these jets at least once a week. Then you use those same concepts of the airplane and expand it out to space vehicles and talk about things like orbital mechanics and the actual suits that you will wear in space. And then finally, we got into simulators. And so the space shuttle had at least 13 systems. Some of these are like your main engines, then your auxiliary engines, your electronics, the atmosphere, of course, the main computers. And we have to know how all of these systems work, every single one of us. Even though I'm not going to be the commander of the space shuttle, I still have to know how all those systems work. So we studied and worked hard. We trained in static vehicles. We'd get into the big orange suits and practice setting up the space shuttle and tearing it down over and over. And then we even practiced simple things like how do you make food in space? And so you can see the rehydrator here on your right. We rehydrate food, and sometimes you can put it in the oven and let it get warmer, or sometimes you want it to be cold, like strawberries. Eventually you graduate and you're waiting for your space flight, and while you're waiting, they do training like robotic arm training. So this is advanced training so you can fly the robotic arm, and you get to do spacewalk training. I like this picture because this is my daughter when I had just, she's about 4 or 5 months old, and I was doing my very first spacewalk training in the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. The Neutral Buoyancy Lab is a huge swimming pool. It's 40 feet deep and 100 feet by 200 feet. And we practice working, as you can see in this other picture, with a safety diver behind us. Well, finally, after 6 years of training and learning about the space shuttle, I was assigned to my space flight with my crew members. So our commander was Alan Poindexter, our pilot was Jim Dutton, and then across the back, working from left to right, Rick Mastracchio was our lead spacewalker, and Stephanie Wilson was our lead robotic arm operator. Naoko Yamazaki was our lead coordinator of transferring equipment, and Clay Anderson was our spacewalker number 2. But we all had multiple jobs when we got to orbit. So on April 5th of 2010, we woke up at 8 o'clock at night while everyone else is kind of wrapping up their day. And this is because we were sleep shifted so that we could get to the International Space Station. We got into our orange suits, which protect us on launch and entry. And then we had checkouts of these suits to make sure there aren't any leaks and to make sure that we can breathe the oxygen the whole time. Eventually, we will walk out to the silver van, which will drive us about 6 kilometers out to our space vehicle. So now it's probably about midnight, and we got out to the space shuttle, and guess what? It was almost 20 years to the day that I built that model of Discovery that I got to fly on the vehicle of Discovery. So, do you have big dreams? Are you making sure that you're doing the things that will make them come true? I really hope so. Okay, you can hear those are the main engines, the 3 main engines, and then the white solid rockets go. And now we're really going. So you can watch as we bounce. This part is like riding on a wooden roller coaster. It really makes you shake up and down and back and forth. And my job was to monitor a lot of systems, but it's kind of hard when everything is shaking, so you really had to focus while this was going on. Eventually, after 2.5 minutes, those white solid rockets are going to pop off and fall back to the ocean. Now the ride is going to get much smoother, and now it's going to feel pretty awesome, like you're just cruising and you don't even feel the shaking anymore. And then, as you go and go, you start to feel the acceleration, and it pushes through your chest in your chair, and it feels like you're getting really heavy, like someone is sitting on you. And finally, when you just can't take it anymore, you're in space, and you're floating up into your seat belt. So it's an awesome 8.5 minutes, and apparently it left a beautiful light show for the friends that were watching below. Once we get to space, we have to turn our vehicle into our home. And so we are going to open our payload bay doors and allow Freon to help cool all of our equipment and even the atmosphere inside the shuttle. So you can see my friend Naoko and Rick are opening up the payload bay doors. On flight day 2, my job was to be a robotic arm operator, and so I'm using the hand controllers to pick up a longer extension and use that extension to take pictures of the wing leading edge as well as all of the tiles of the space shuttle. We added this procedure after we lost our crew of Columbia, so it was a really important checkout procedure. It also took 5 hours, so of course we swapped roles and made sure that people traded in and out. On flight day 3, we're preparing to rendezvous with the space station. So you'll see these M&Ms float as we made a burn. And this picture was taken from the space station looking at our space shuttle. So we do a series of burns that brings our orbit underneath the space station, and then we do a flip. Again, they're taking more pictures of our tiles, so you can see that flip happening here. And then we're going to come out in front of the space station and then fly in to dock with it. To you and I on Earth, it looks like a space shuttle or a space station is moving 17,500 miles per hour. But as we approach each other at the very end, we're just moving a few centimeters per second. So everything is relative. Our commander, Poindexter, made a great docking. When the two vehicles docked, they're in free drift. Neither one can control the other because they could pull each other apart, and that would be bad. So we wait till that kind of settles, and then Naoko and I would pull the vehicles together with these clamps. There's a ring of hooks that drive, and they bring the vehicle together. And then eventually, as you can hear, we get to enter the space station.
How you doing?
So the commander at the time of the space station was Oleg Kotov. Oleg, of course, is from the Russian Space Agency. And on the other side is Soichi Noguchi. It was the first time for 2 Japanese crew members in space. So it's truly an international space station. It's pretty fun to come in and find your friends hanging out on the walls and on the ceilings. Remember, in space, you can use all surfaces, so it never feels tight or cramped. Well, my friend Naoko and Stephanie are flying another robotic arm. This is the larger space station robotic arm. And as you can see, they put this module onto the space station. This module brought up 6 tons of equipment. Some of this was science experiments and actually science racks that lets data be transferred back to Earth. And some of it was clothing and food, even a bedroom for the crew members that live on the space station. Another important piece that we brought up was a sabatier. The sabatier was the completion of our life cycle up on the space station, where we're able to convert urine back into good drinking water, and we're able to take water and make electricity, and we're also able to get rid of carbon dioxide. So we have a closed loop cycle. We had our 2 spacewalkers do a series of 3 spacewalks. This was to add an ammonia tank to the space station. Ammonia is used to help cool all the equipment on the outside, the computers, the batteries, everything that's creating heat. My job was to talk to our spacewalkers during these spacewalks for the whole 6.5 hours to 7 hours that they're out there, and to make sure that they're safe and that everything they're doing is coordinated with our robotic arm operators. So you're seeing the ammonia tank there. That's the new ammonia tank. And Stephanie and Jim are using the robotic arm to move it into a temporary position. Then we had to go take off the old ammonia tank, and that's pretty easy. We took out the 4 bolts, and then Rick and Clay handed that ammonia tank off to the arm, and then the arm brought the old ammonia tank to this position. It's called a CETA cart. And in space, because this tank is very heavy, it's okay, because we could just use a few straps to hold it in place temporarily until we needed it again. But that wouldn't work here on Earth. So space is a great place for working with big things. I could watch all of this work out the window too, so that was pretty awesome. Everything was going great until we got to this point. And you can see that silver bolt at the top of the screen, and it wouldn't seat into the receptacle that it needed to drive into. So we tried a crowbar. It didn't work. We tried a flathead screwdriver. It still didn't work. They even told us to go get a small hammer, but the hammer weighs maybe 1/2 pound, maybe a pound, and the tank is 2,000 pounds, so that didn't work either. The problem was that space is very hot and very cold, and when you work under shadows, it causes the tank to warp. So my friend Rick had to hold the tank in the cold until the back was no longer warped, and then Rick and Clay could shove the tank into the space station, and that's what made it work. So sometimes you just need some brute force and everything is okay. And now you see we put the old tank back into the payload bay. So again, this took 3 separate spacewalks, probably about a cumulative amount of 18+ hours of work outside. And after each spacewalk, we bring our crew members in. They are tired. They've been in that suit for longer than 8 hours because they had to do the pure oxygen checkouts and all the checkouts beforehand. So we literally attach them to the wall, and then we're able to take off their tools and actually take off the pants and help them slide out of the suit. One of the biggest things we've learned in space is about the human body. You know, we've learned that hearts atrophy and muscles do too. We've learned this because we bring back blood and urine samples. So you'll see our crew members are transferring these samples into a freezer. Because we no longer fly the space shuttle, it's okay. We have SpaceX, and SpaceX returns and is still able to return blood and urine and many other types of frozen samples. Now, something we did do as a shuttle is that we had fuel cells in the back of our payload bay, and those fuel cells produced water. So our commander's filling a water bag there. And of course, we transferred that water to the space station because even though, like I said, there's a closed loop cycle, it only recovers 65 to 85% of the water. So they still need makeup water, which still arrives on the Progress vehicle from Russia. Now, I think the kids will like this because even though as adults we may have told you not to play with your food, we're terrible examples. What is it? It's an apple, right? And they're trying to play with an apple. And Naoko has a chocolate candy that she's added to a water drop. It makes for a pretty nice snack. Naoko brought also a cherry blossom because it's from Japan, and it shows how beautiful water droplets can look in space. But as a rookie, she may have blown on the water drop a little too hard. One of our favorite activities, of course, is to have meals together and to share about our day and to share friendship with our international partners. So here we had a Russian meal, an American meal, and also a Japanese meal. And this was the first time that we could have sushi in space. Although we didn't have raw fish, we had rehydrated shrimp and canned mackerel. But no matter what, the commanders still really enjoyed the wasabi. Of course, we have to exercise in space. That's what keeps us healthy so that we can return to Earth. This is the advanced resistive exercise device. Crew members try to use it at least once a day, so they're putting a load on their large muscles, which helps their bones stay strong. I was glad to know that I finally grew a little bit in space so that I could finally catch up with my younger sister who is an inch taller than me. We enjoy sleeping in space, and these are our sleeping bags. Because we go around the Earth every 90 minutes, we do need those face masks to help block out that extra sunlight. But you can see we have our arms, they kind of stick out a little bit funny in space. But it's very comfortable. Some of the best sleep I've ever had because nothing is pressing on your body. Another favorite pastime is to look out the window. I'm an earth scientist, so of course I love the views, but everyone loves the views. And that's because you get to see things you've never seen before. These are the lights across the southern United States at night, allowing you to see how cities are truly connected with all of those highways. Of course, our orbits are interrupted with these quick sunrises and sunsets, which never get old because they're really beautiful. I loved especially flying across the desert and seeing the oranges and browns of the desert sands, but also seeing places like this. This is coming across Florida and the islands of the Caribbean. I just really love the different shades of blue. This is a lightning storm in Australia. It almost looked like the clouds were dancing with little lightning worms. It was really beautiful. And then something I had not had the chance to see was the aurora. So I finally got the chance to see the aurora from space. So instead of watching movies or playing, we just spent a lot of time watching the Earth, and you can see why. It's incredibly beautiful. It's also a good reminder that we only get one spaceship Earth for all of us, 7.5 plus billion. And it's a reminder to me that that responsibility lies on us to take care of it. Well, it was almost time to unpack our very last item, which was this huge 900-pound rack, but see how my friend Naoko is able to just glide it into place. So it worked great, all of that good teamwork. So it was an honor to be a part of NASA, and I was glad that I could share it with you today. And thank you so much for paying attention.
Dorothy Metcalf-Lindenburger, pretty nice, very good, thank you. Bolo to naozaj veľmi fajn. Americká astronautka NASA, ktorá v roku 2010 po 15 dňoch a to, čo sa dialo, čo mu predchádzalo, to ste počuli. Rozumeli ste tomu všetci? Alebo teda aspoň námet? Ak náhodou nie, ja vám to teraz idem preložiť. Začnem od začiatku, hej. Keď som bola malá, dobre, toto nemusíme. Veľmi dôležitá pasáž je, kedy zhruba v strede povedala, že o môj Bože, veď ja sa môžem stať astronautkou. A to je šanca. To je šanca, ktorá neprichádza v živote každý deň. Možno iba raz. A dôležité je, že tú šancu treba uchopiť a tú šancu treba využiť. Tak sa to stalo, buďte na seba nároční. Ja som veľmi rád, že medzi nami môžem privítať aj zástupcu spoločnosti Annex, pána Mareka Beličku. Je to divízny manažer tejto spoločnosti. Dobrý deň vám prajem. Dobrý deň, veľmi pekne vás vítam. Spoločnosť Annex ideme teraz trošku predstaviť a ja sa hneď opýtam. Viem, že vznikla v roku 2010. V tom mám absolútne jasno. Viem, čo robíte, v tom mám absolútne jasno, ale zatiaľ iba my dvaja v tom. Našim divákom povedzte, čím sa zaoberá vaša spoločnosť?
Spoločnosť Annex má asi 150 zamestnancov a zaoberá sa širokým portfóliom informačných technológií. Pôsobíme v mnohých oblastiach. Za najdôležitejšie považujeme financie, verejnú správu a zdravotníctvo. V oblasti verejnej správy napríklad poskytujeme bezpečné elektronické formuláre. Zdravotníctvo je jednou z našich kľúčových domén, kde sme vyvinuli viacero inovácií.
Nové riešenia, nové aplikácie, ktoré vyrábate, na ktorých pracujete?
Áno, napríklad v slovenskom elektronickom zdravotníctve sme poskytli unikátny systém pre kontrolu bezpečnosti liekov. Zvyšné ostatné riešenia poskytujú kontrolu vzájomných interakcií, čiže vzťahov medzi liekmi. My sme vyvinuli systém, ktorý kontroluje, že či daný liek neublíži pacientovi, ktorý má nejakú konkrétnu chorobu, je schopný kontrolovať dávkovanie a dokonca aj alergické reakcie. Napríklad pre diabetikov sme vyvinuli aplikáciu Edia Smart, ktorá umožňuje lepšiu kontrolu a motiváciu pre pacienta, aby si kontroloval svoj zdravotný stav a zdieľal ho so svojím lekárom. Túto aplikáciu sme napríklad prezentovali aj na Noci výskumníkov v roku 2015.
A na to si veľmi dobre pamätáme. Na akých ďalších ešte pracujete? Máte ešte niečo vo vývoji, výskume?
Áno, začali sme sa zaoberať genetikou a súvisiacim výskumom pre diagnostiku a liečbu chorôb. To nás priviedlo k téme neurónových sietí.
Neurónové siete? Zde tak celkom zaujímavé. To nám porozprávajte trochu.
Nie je to v podstate umelá inteligencia, ako ju spoznáme z filmov. My máme radšej pojem strojové učenie. Umelú inteligenciu alebo neurónové siete totiž to neprogramujeme, ale učíme. Učíme ako dieťa. A tá neurónová sieť, keď ju naučíme správnym množstvom dát, hľadá optimálne riešenia už sama.
Dobre, teraz sa opýtam tak laicky, že na čo to využívame?
Vidíme široký potenciál týchto technológií. Napríklad v inteligentných mestách. Vieme využiť existujúce kamery na identifikáciu prázdnych parkovacích miest. Vieme v priemysle robiť kontrolu kvality materiálov, pracovných postupov. A v zdravotníctve sme napríklad vyvinuli systém na diagnostiku rakoviny, alebo respektíve vyhodnotenie rakoviny zo sklíčok. A tento systém máme aj na poschodí v našom stánku.
A kde to je ten stánok, aby sme vedeli, že čo všetko tam ponúkate? Najskôr tak skúsme lokalizovať.
Dobre, s týmto schodišťom, pokiaľ sa dostanete hore,
ideme hore.
Ťažko povedať, či je to pravý horný roh, ale je to hore na poschodí. Máme tam veľmi široký stánok s viacerými monitormi a s veľmi výkonnými procesormi, ktoré poskytujú až 50 teraflopov.
Takže oplatí sa k vám prísť.
Určite.
Čo všetko ešte tam môžem vidieť?
Môžete vidieť napríklad spracovanie obrazu. akým spôsobom neurónové siete v súčasnosti sú schopné rozpoznávať objekty, alebo prípadne môžu sa zahrať na maliara.
Takže pozvánka pre všetkých?
Určite áno.
Celkom určite áno, oficiálne otvorenie o malú chvíľočku, sme tu až do noci, budete tu s nami, predpokladám.
Až do polnoci.
Pánovi Marekovi Beličkovi veľmi pekne ďakujem, divíznemu manažérovi spoločnosti Anex. Všetko dobré?
Ďakujem veľmi pekne.